the dropping off of kids at camp was pretty miraculous too. It's like, what? Parents are actually trusting us with their kids. This is crazy. Our desire at that point was just let's know their name and love them and walk with them. And I think that is what got the traction for this core group of parents that are like, this is where I want my kids to go. If you come away from Camp Highland having connected with God, and it's a refueling stop along the way, we have done what we promised to do.
Hello and welcome to the Simple Charity Podcast, a show about learning to love generously like Jesus. I'm your host, Brian Grasso. One study suggests that 83% of Christians make their first commitment to Jesus between the ages of 4 and 14. Rates of conversion to Christianity drop significantly for adults aged 19 and older. Because such a significant number of professions of faith happen early, some people refer to the 4-14 window as the age range that is most strategic for evangelism. Today on the show, I talk with Bill Chapman, the founder and CEO of Camp Highland, a Christian camp that impacts thousands of children and families every year. We talk about Camp Highland's origin story in 3 dimensions: the real estate story, the fundraising story, and the camper recruitment story. We also talk about why camp can be transformational for young people. Finally, I ask Bill what he does to keep campers safe from abuse and where he sees the camp going in the future. Join me for a conversation about the power of moments alone with God, especially for young people. If you are listening to this podcast, this is your show. So as always, please send me your thoughts, questions, and suggestions at brianwithny@simplecharity.org. And if the show is helpful to you, please click a 5-star rating in your podcast app and also hit subscribe. This helps the algorithm get the show out to more listeners and is super helpful for our podcast. So thank you so much for taking a moment to do that right now. I'm so glad you're with us today.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I serve as a Simple Charity philanthropic advisor to individuals, couples, families, foundations, and family offices in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area of North Carolina, but also to clients around the country. If you're curious about your own generosity journey and would like help thinking through a philanthropic strategy with intentionality to discern where God is calling you to love people, to find excellent nonprofits to partner with, or to understand the impact of your current grant making, I would love to connect and share more about Simple Charity's philanthropic advising offerings. You can connect with me at melissahall@simplecharity.org. That's melissahall@simplecharity.org. And you can learn more about us at simplecharity.org. That's simplecharity.org.
Oh, Brian Grasso.
Bill Chapman, welcome to the Simple Charity Podcast.
Absolutely. So excited.
What are you grateful for today, Bill?
You know what I'm grateful for today? I am grateful for, Betsy and I have 4 kids that they love us, they love the Lord, and I don't take that lightly. I just think that is, I mean, God can strike a straight blow with a crooked stick. So I know me, I'm so thankful that I just have great kids that they still want to hang around. And so Betsy and I are very, very grateful for that. So,
Bill, I need to get
what about
all
you?
of your. Well, I'm also grateful for my kids. I was just gonna say I need to get all of your parenting advice for how to raise boys, because you got 4 boys who are grown up now, and like you said, love the Lord and love you guys. And I got 3 boys who are probably going to be blaring the Pokemon theme song in the background of this podcast. And
I love
hopefully
it.
not
I love it.
banging on the door of my office. But I'm sure there's a ton I can learn from you about parenting.
Man. That's great. Now, I think Betsy and I have probably gone before you and made as many of the mistakes that need to be made. So we're happy to share those with you guys. And you know, it's such a journey, and it's such a difficult journey right now with all the things that are happening in children's lives. I think,
Mm,
I don't know who said this, but I'm certainly not going to take credit for it. If we don't disciple our kids, the world will.
mm,
And so I just think we have stayed the course and wanted to try to walk along with our kids in these hard things. And they need resilience. They need to be willing to go, like really press against life and recognize that it's not going to be easy. And
yeah.
the fact that it's not easy is not a challenge to our faith. It's a validation that we're in the right spot. So,
Mm.
for sure.
Well, today is not a podcast about parenting. We probably could do a whole other episode, but I do think this is a good bridge
Hey, let's
just to what
go.
you do, Bill, and your
Yeah.
ministry. And you think a lot about how to, serve kids and help them grow up in many ways. And so tell me, Bill, what do you do for a living? Tell us about Camp Highland.
Oh man. Well, 33 years ago, I had this experience at First Baptist Church Atlanta. I was teaching a Sunday school class, 16 guys, and I walked through 4 years with them, and they all graduated. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? I was in sales at the time, and, fun budding career. And I just felt the Lord's tug to say, I think this is what you need to do. You need to run a camp that kind of feels like the way you've done this class, where we just play really, really hard. And it's all about, what do we need to do, the hard work we need to do to fall in love with Jesus today and go give it
Mhm.
away. And so this is a camping trip that's gotten out of hand, Brian. That's all this is. So, um, and so that's what we do every day. And I would be, gosh, I'd be taking credit I don't deserve if we called it my camp. There are hundreds of people, and Betsy and I have been very, very blessed to have a lot of people walk along with us. And we look back on a time where there was not a Camp Highland, and now look at what God is choosing to do, and it's wild to think, what we
Yeah.
get to do every day. But it's play with purpose. It's get out here in the middle of it and let's figure it out together, and ground it in God's word, and let's go figure out what being a disciple looks like in 2026. So that's what
Mm.
I get to do every day. It's a blast.
And Bill, give us a sense of the scale of Camp Highland at this point. How many campers do you serve? What is the facility like? I
Sure.
think that'll help frame our
Sure.
conversation.
Sure. Well, so so we really have worked toward a way of thinking about Camp Highland a little bit differently over the last 3 years. So the way that we influence the family is through day camp, overnight camp, father son, father daughter, and family camps. We have Beyond Camp Highland that is geared toward 18 to 28-year-olds. And then we have Grace Valley, which is for investing in and walking alongside pastors. Um, and so when you look at the breadth of what Camp Highland is doing, it's really Highland Ministries now. And if
Yeah.
you go to Highland Ministries, .com, it's kind of a stepping off point for all of the facets of what Camp Highland is doing. We have a 770-acre facility on Carter's Lake in Ellijay, and every year we'll serve, over the course of the year, we're about to serve that little guy right there. So, um, every year we serve about, 7 to 8,000 people over the course of the year.
Mm.
Um, in the summertime, you're very, very, very surgical. We serve a remnant of kids in the summertime. Our capacity, we have 300 beds at camp. And in the summertime, we are limited. We limit our capacity to 160 kids a week. And so we
Hmm.
run camp for uh, the elementary, middle, and high school age kids. Grow, know, and go is kind of our theme there. And we'll serve right at 1,000 children in LJ, and then we'll serve another 800 to 1,000 through day camp in Roswell. So
And Bill, why does camp matter? Take this anywhere you want to go.
so there is a Psalm 19:1 says the heavens and the earth declare the glory of the Lord. And I think there is a moment in time where we need to be in awe of God. We need to pause and recognize that this is not about us, that there is a God of this universe that crafted us in his image, and he's worthy of slowing down and saying, I want to do life in a way that honors you. And
Yeah.
so for a kid, you can tell them slow down and respect God, and maybe that works for some temperaments, but it didn't work for my boys. It doesn't work for a lot of kids that are in that age range. And so for us to get to the place to where we're inviting kids into a relationship with Christ, in a place where you can go put your phone away and it's celebrated.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
everybody, I take a picture of our staff. We used to have a basket. Now we have a box of where
Hmm.
all of the phones go for our staff when, the first day of summer camp starts. And it's 80, 90 phones in this big old bin. And it's fantastic to think that there's a group of college students that are saying, you and me, eye contact with you and me, real live
Yeah.
conversations together, and handing that off to the next generation are going to be what matters for the next 6 days. Above everything else, we are going to spend time together. We're going to let it be grounded in our relationship with the Lord. And I think there's no better way to do that than at a camp.
Yeah. So you are, I shouldn't say just you and the team and the
Yes.
Lord
Yes. Great.
are
Thank you.
yes, serving, 7 to 8,000 campers a year and giving them the experience you just described. 7 to 8,000 young people, maybe college students, maybe some parents with their kids in family camp,
Yes.
to set aside the phones and the distractions, to get out of kind of the hustle bustle of everyday life, and to be in nature and have these kind of hopefully encounters with God. I mean, that is a beautiful. I mean, even if you just think about if each of those people have one moment with God during camp,
Yes.
Camp Highland or Highland
For
Ministries is like
sure.
this factory is the wrong word, but this ministry that
No,
is
but
letting
yes,
these thousands of moments with God happen every
that's
year.
right.
I mean, that is a
That's right.
wonderful. I mean, that's a beautiful picture. And you said it's 33 years ago, so this didn't happen overnight. What was the journey like to
No,
get to where we are now? Tell us the
oh,
story of how Camp
gosh,
Highland
it's
became
been
Camp Highland.
it has been wonderful and awful and amazing, and there just been all of it, all of it together, all in one you know, big, mixture of experiences. And I think that we have a desperate dependence on the Lord, because we've walked in that. We have just lived in that. And we started on my grandparents' farm.
Yeah.
We literally started, Brian, we built the first ropes course where my dad used to take me camping when I was a little boy.
Hmm.
And so my dad was, he was a veteran in the Army, flew helicopters, 2 tours in Vietnam.
Mm.
He was just incredible. And, I just remember I have a picture of my dad and I in that spot, in that camping spot. And it's like, gosh, and the Lord knew that right in that place would be a place where we would camp and we would inspire, the journey would begin right there. And it would be, so much more about a group of kids, thousands and thousands of kids, really gaining an appreciation for creation and for what God has done. And so it's been a
Yeah.
wonderful journey. It's been an amazing journey. And we started on my grandparents' farm. My grandparents passed away, and my mom and her sister had to sell the property that we were on. And honestly, for the vision of camp being what it was about 100 acres of pasture and about 20 acres of wooded land. And so
Mm.
that would have been a tough place for us to build camp for good. So we began to look, and it was just a really crazy journey to try to find. We had 6 criteria. We had the generosity of a close friend who allowed us to move to his property in Dahlonega, temporarily. And so we set up camp temporary. I'm thinking 18 months, 2 years tops. 6 years later, we're still, going at it. And, but God was faithful and led us to a place that it's a lakeside facility that has views that are maybe some of the very best views in the Southeast. That you can't step out onto the overlook at camp and not just gasp and just say, "Man, God is good." I should record everybody's reaction when we drive out to the overlook, because it's predictable. It's like God speaks right here. He's saying, "I am real. I am alive." And you need to recognize it. And part of it is just, look at the wonder and the awe of this view. Um, but we try to pick up where we left off and continue to run programs, and I just would not allow us to take a break, which was a very poor decision. And I mean, it was muddy and our roads weren't in, and we just got power, and it was a tough couple of years to transition to the new property. But gosh, now, we've got a wonderful, gym. I think you can look at our website, camphighland.com, and just see that, the the playing field that we have, that we used to play on a dirt rundown field, is now a turf, field that, we just had a lot of really great donors that have walked along with us, enabled us to build out cabins and dorms. And we're really, really, really grateful for all of these tools. Camp is not about the place, it is about the person of Christ. And
Mm.
all of the stuff that we have, there are times I wish we had less stuff, but the stuff that we have is, it's a tool. And Brian, I remember I remember this like it was yesterday. I'm walking up the hill at camp on our new property. We just finished a building project, one of our first building projects. And a little girl is coming running over the hill. She's like running at me. She's like, "Mr. Chapman, okay, the toilet at the girls' campsite is clogged." And I was like, "That is fantastic. I can't believe that. We've never had that before." And she's like, "You're kidding. You've never had a clogged toilet?" I said, "No, no, no. We've never had a toilet before. This is wonderful. This is amazing." She was like, "Oh gosh, okay, that's fine." So, I mean, here we are, almost Gosh, almost 15 years in, and we're just putting in place some of the things that people really take for granted. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's been our mentality, Brian. Let's go
Yeah.
do whatever it takes to be in the fight, love and serve kids. So
Yeah, I think it's interesting talking to people who start ministries, founders of ministries. There's always a story of development for the programs, and then there's a analogous story of fundraising. And I think
yes,
most ministries, these are two very separate activities. They look different. A lot of times, people who start ministries love the program work. They're not as excited
yes,
about the fundraising work. Could
yes,
you just give
yeah,
us a little bit of like the narrative of what the fundraising journey has looked like for Camp Highland? I'm curious, like what you've learned
sure,
over that about
sure.
trusting
Oh,
God, about
still learning.
yeah,
Yeah, still learning, still growing. I love fundraising. I think it's fantastic. I love, it's about vision. It's not about money. I understand that. I think I've come to understand that over a lot of years. I think I was very naive when we started. I just thought, I just tell people what we're doing and they get excited about it and they help us. And it's that, and that's kind of what happens, but not exactly.
mm,
There are places where you just have a little bit of an expectation that there's a lot of people that do very well in Atlanta, and that because they have a lot of money, they should support us and they should give a lot of money. Maybe because they come to camp or their kids have come to camp,
yeah,
but that's not always true. And just getting okay with it. Brian, there are the journey has been really, really amazing, and it's grown our faith to trust God with our primary job is to love and serve kids. Our primary
yeah,
job is not to raise money. Um,
right.
so really, if I'm going to choose one or the other, we're going to really spend and invest most of our time and energy into love and serve kids. So uh, I can remember a time, just it had been just around the time we were raising the money to be able to purchase the land for camp. And we've had a really crazy journey. We've paid off all of the land, all of our building. We're completely debt free, which
Let's go. Praise
that
God.
is no small thing, let me tell you. But there was a time, Brian, where I didn't look at our donations at all. That it was too hard for me to know the people that should be giving a lot aren't, and the people that aren't that shouldn't
Yeah,
are. And it's like, what in the world is
yeah,
going
yeah,
on?
yeah.
So I just was like, okay, Lord, I this is crushing my soul. I am going to let one of our team write thank you notes and care for our donors for a bit here. And I just need to focus on gratitude and mission and heart, and not grow. My expectations are what's wrong here. It's not anybody
Mhm.
else. Um, but the journey has been really curious. And I think one of the things that I desire is, I want us to be a steward of this mission. And part of what that means is that I do a better job of raising the resources so that we can look at the need and say, okay, what we just need to allocate the resources here to be able to be best at meeting that need.
Yeah.
And of course, you got to have more resources to be able to pull that off. So that's what we're really, that's what I want us to get to someday. But I love, I think this is one of the things as a founder, Brian, you were talking about founders all have their journey.
Mm,
I think if somebody had sat me down at the very beginning of this crazy mission and said, okay, here's the deal. you are going to be a entrepreneur. You are going to be a real estate specialist. You are going to have building design and, general contractor responsibilities. At the
Yeah.
same time, we are going to be writing curriculum and building program, hiring summer staff, marketing for campers to attend, walking along with a couple of families who have a child that's struggling and you love them and you know them. And so you want to spend some time with them. And by the way,
Counselor.
you're a counselor guy. I've got a great story about that. We'll talk about sometime. Um, I had
Yeah.
a I had a donor lunch, and we were 2 counselors short for the summer, and I was just like, "Well, for this week, I'm gonna be a counselor." And so I literally was one of our summer staff for the week. This was back in 2001, so I didn't have quite as much gray hair. But I literally I didn't get a shower, I didn't change. I was like, "Look, if I show up at a donor lunch and they're mad because I'm in the trenches loving on kids, then I don't want them to support us anyway." So, but if you had said this is all the stuff that's going on, and by the way, I want to be a rock star dad, I want to be an available husband, I want to be. My mom and dad were such an integral part of starting Camp Highland. My mom cooked some of the first meals we ever served, and kind of set the
Wow.
pace for food service to be like it's a real live meal for a cabin instead of, institutional boxed eggs for 300 people. And so Betsy has maintained that vision and helped us, keep our food service quality at a real high level.
Yeah.
But all those things together is just, I think I would have said, no, I'm not your guy. I
You would
can't,
have talked yourself
there's
out of it.
no way I can do all that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I want to care for kids, and that's what I think I can do, maybe. But all this other stuff, I have no idea what I'm doing. And there are days after
Yeah.
all these years, there are days I still feel that way, Brian. I just feel like,
Mm,
gosh, um, I'm not the person for this.
mm.
But God's shown up, and it's about him anyway. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. God, I think always likes to use the people who think they're not the right person. I
Yeah.
think
Well,
our
I know I'm in good company.
you're in good company.
Yeah, I know I'm in good company, but
Our kids are obsessed with the new David movie,
mm,
and so we've watched that a few times and listened to the soundtrack about 250 times, I think, which is actually really good. It's really good.
yeah,
For
yeah,
those
I
who
need
don't
to
have
check
young
that
kids,
out.
and
Yeah.
yeah, if you don't have young kids, it's there's I guess not as much of a reason to go see it, but but yeah, I think just the I love the story. I mean, it's a great story for kids, and just how reluctant David is to be king. Is I
Mm,
think there's a line in the movie where David says that it's like you know I'm not the right person for this, and Samuel the prophet's like, well, you saying that is exactly why you're
well,
the right person for this.
yeah, there you go. Well,
Well,
I
Bill,
think I've worked hard. I think I've worked hard to, like, validate that. It's like, "God, are you sure? I
yeah.
mean, come on." But it's inspiring to see what he continues to do. Betsy and I were at a wedding, a friend of the family, a lot of connections, and kids that have attended camp were there. And, there's just little moments where God just shows up and is like, all right, look, Bill, Betsy, you guys need to just sit down and just listen for a minute. And it was like a line. It was like a receiving line, Brian. Just one after another, kids coming up to us and saying, "Mr. Chapman, Miss Chapman, our life is we're married. This is my wife. You know, I went to Camp Highland. My walk with Christ would never be the same if it were not for y'all." And just one after another. It's like, gosh, I just can't believe we get to do what we do. So, yeah.
Bill, we've talked so far about the impact on campers, but can you give us a sense of kind of the broader impact of Camp Highland, of ways that, you know, we were talking even before the show
Yes.
about how you've been able to hold this kind of posture of generosity towards other ministries, other projects.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, Brian, early on, I think we decided together that our policy on, you know, generosity and what we wanted to scholarship fund, you know, things of that nature. We just wanted to have a policy to just never say no. So if it's in our power to give it away and to share it, we just do. We just never say no. And so I think over 33 years, there are just, you know, I would say there's got to be over 100 opportunities where somebody has approached us and said, "This is our dream. This is our vision. You know, we're building this camp, and you know, we'd like to know what do you guys recommend we do for our low ropes course elements?" And you know, Brian, we know how to do that. And so we're like, "Hey, if that's what y'all want to do, we'll just build it for you." So we'll scramble, you know, our happy little building team and just go out there and just what would have cost them, you know, $180,000, we scrabble together the things that we already have in our possession, a big spool of cable and, you know, all the stuff, and we just go build it for them and then train them on how to use it. And then it's theirs to manage the safety and training from that point forward. We're not building any high ropes course elements. That's another thing altogether for them to journey into. But over the years, we have planted and built a ropes course in Kenya. We partnered with Atlas Ministries in Oconee County just to make a shift in their mindset and using experiential learning instead of that kind of vacation Bible school mentality. And now they train together with us at the beginning of every summer. It is so much fun just to see how that partnership with Ryan and the rest of his team has really taken shape. Our partnership with Waymark for foster care kids is one of my favorite things we do. You know,
Tell me more about
lot
that,
of
Bill. What do you do for foster care kids?
so they have a program where they match up mentors with kids, and they do it over the course of a weekend instead of a phone call. And so we facilitate a program where they invite mentors and put them together with kids in groups. And at the end of the weekend, they're partnered up with somebody who's going to spend some time with them and mentor them. And then they also have two other programs that they run, one for the girls and one for the boys, just to help them with your identity in Christ. And they go through simple things that life skills that they need to build, and they do it right there at camp. And so we have just forever just said to that team, "Hey, if you need a place to go do that, this is your place. As long as you want to come hang out, you have a place." And so, yeah,
And
that's the way
you charge them extra for that, right?
we
For the rentals.
yeah, we charge them, you know, their fee goes up by almost 20% every year, but 20% of zero is still zero. Yes. So, but it's the right thing to do. We really love the idea that God has equipped us. He's given us some particular gifts, and for us to be an unconference center, when you come
Yeah.
to Camp Highland, when you come to one of our properties or a place that's really adopted our culture, it's just not. It doesn't feel like a conference center. It feels like you're getting away um, for the purpose of really connecting with God
Yeah.
and doing it in a way that's fun. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how um there okay, so I think with a camp, there's almost another story that I'm curious about. So there's like a real estate story. And I
yes,
feel like you
for
shared
sure.
that of we have to find a place, we have to raise the money to buy the place. But the other thing that's interesting,
Yes,
Bill, is there's a like you have to acquire the campers. Like you have to go out and find people and tell them about the camp
yes,
and then get them there as
yes.
well. Because you could have theoretically a wonderful big camp facility that doesn't get utilized.
Right,
So can you share a little
right.
bit about like how you guys got to the point of having, 7 to 8,000 people every year know about Camp Highlands, like want to go to this camp? What was kind of the development of building that kind of um, I don't know, network or audience
Yeah,
for the
well,
camp?
remember, well, you wouldn't remember, but back in 1993 when we started, there was
Yeah,
just
I did not
all of the
exist.
things that started. That's so scary. It's just making me feel so old. Oh my
Sorry,
gosh.
Bill. Sorry.
Mm. But uh gosh, that's terrible. But anyway, yeah, we gotta go. Um But looking back that far, that's one of the things that I just grossly underestimated. I think people, when it comes to camps, are very loyal. My
Right.
mom and dad went to XYZ camp and, wherever Wisconsin. My dad has a paddle in the gym. I mean, that's where we go every year. I mean, I didn't even think about that. So, we were just under the impression that, and very naively so, that, we have a heart for discipleship and there's got to be a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of families that want their kids to, be discipled. And I think back in the early days, Brian, I was single. I had never spent any time with kids. I mean, high school kids, I taught a Sunday school class, but I mean, that was really the extent of it. For a parent to drop their kids off at Camp Highland, that was really a camping trip at the very beginning. I mean, I think there's a lot of healing at Bethsaida was pretty miraculous, but I think the dropping off of kids at camp was pretty miraculous too. It's like, what? Parents are actually trusting us with their kids. This is crazy.
Yeah.
But, our desire at that point was just, let's know their name and love them and walk with them. And I think that is what got the traction for this core group of parents that are like, this is where I want my kids to go. Because we don't promise you're going to have the best week of your life. I mean, there's a lot of camps that's their brand promise. That's not our brand promise. This may be one of the hardest weeks of your life, but it's going to be a great week. You're going to have fun doing
Mm,
it. But if you come away from Camp Highland having connected with God, and it's a refueling stop along the way, that we have done what we promised to do. And so we've just been doing
yeah.
that for a long, long, long time. And we're communicating through social media and all of those things, but it's been really, 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 organic in the way that we have grown the constituency around Highland Ministries. That is this group of people that, yeah, they go to day camp. It's not a sports camp. It literally is a camp that centers on time alone with God and activity blocks that give you an opportunity to like have real live community and connection. Like we don't give campers the ability to build their own schedule. So there's going to be something you're going to go to that you're going to love. And there's going to be something you're going to go to and is going to be your activity block that you're going to not love. And
Yeah.
that's great. We like that. That's like your
Yeah.
opportunity to get fired up about what your cabin wanted to go do. And then when you love the lake, and there are 3 kids on your cabin that they don't love the lake, but they get fired up to see you out there on that tube and having a blast. And, can we be for each other in that way instead of just demanding that,
Yeah.
every moment of every day we need to be entertained? I mean, it's just become a very, very big part of our program. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's the way we've attracted our constituency.
Yeah. I love that what you're describing. It feels like there's so many intentionally designed choices of how Camp Highland works that cut against our culture of
Oh, yes.
entertainment and distraction and personalization and screens. It's like, let's get rid of all of that. And actually, it's, in isolation. It's actually, in nature and communal and structured and challenging. I'm curious about safety. There's been a couple
Sure.
tragic stories in the news. Camp Mystic, I think that's one story, but we were talking some about Kennecott camps, story of kind of sexual
Right.
abuse that was
Right.
rampant in the camps. And then I think that really with Kennecott, there was also a story of kind of an institutional failure to hold the perpetrators accountable and to, there were
Yes.
warning flags that went on for a while. What does Camp
Yes.
Highland do to keep kids safe while at camp, and physically safe, but also safe from abuse of any
Right.
kind?
Right. Well, our first thing I just want to say, our heart breaks for those families that have entrusted their kids to a camp and come away having been, like systematically, um, you know, like shielded from being cared for, acknowledged, and protected. It is heartbreaking to hear those stories. Um, what we do, I think as we were talking about this earlier, scale can break mission. And I think the appetite for a camp owner or director to get to the point to where they've grown, and that's the primary part. It's become a camp business that ministry happens at. And we want to be a camp ministry that runs the business well. And that's something that's very important to us. And so when it comes to safety, in all of the other aspects, we have third party responsibility for checking all of our safety protocols. We have peer reviews. We're very, very serious about safety. Um, and then when it comes to background checks and all of the things that a lot of ministries don't do in times past, we just can't afford not to do that. And it's true that a lot of people that have been engaged in abuse, that wouldn't show up on a background check.
Yeah.
But I think that's a baseline. I think you just do that because you can. And then, Brian, we just take this very personally.
Yeah.
I probably would offend a whole lot of people if I shared with them my perspective on the way that I mean, I just take this personally. If somebody were to come to Camp Highland and harm a child on purpose, um, I would I would not be okay with that. I would
Yeah.
lose my mind. We put a lot of heart and soul into loving and caring for kids, and for that to be undermined by somebody who is a predator, um, not only would we approach it differently than some of these larger camps have approached it, I think the reason why we have a level of confidence, it's not arrogance, it's confidence in the system that we employ, is that it's personal, that we
Mm,
really do. Our rule of three is not a suggestion, that you are going to be around three individuals all the time, and it's for your protection and for the protection of our guests. And it is not, it applies to me, it applies to every single person on our property, and that is without exception. And and then, I also believe that there's a responsibility that we have, to make sure that if somebody were to show up in the system, that we would be ruthless in our
yeah,
desire to want to hold them accountable.
yeah,
I want to believe that I would not want to protect our organization over my desire to protect that child from whomever harmed them. We can't keep people from being, dumb and you know acting outside the scope of our standard, but we can darn sure, you know control our reaction to finding out something that happened. And so I would that is the way we take this very personally. It matters to
yeah.
us very much so.
I think one element that is important for Christian camps and honestly any Christian ministries, and particularly with like sexual abuse, is to just be talking about it, to have the conversation with
Yes,
the staff. And I
that's
think
right.
one of the challenges sometimes with Christian ministries is like if if there's something that's taboo, then it's I think going to be a lot more likely. And you were
Yeah,
sharing,
that's right.
even before the show of like there is a conversation with
Oh yeah.
staff.
Yeah, there's a conversation. And Brian, here's the other
You
part of it.
threaten them if they
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna come after you personally."
yeah, yeah.
So,
But yeah, I
that
mean,
there is a
in all
conversation,
seriousness,
but the other yeah, but the other part of it is that we also are talking about the things that are not funny. That, the
yeah,
things that were written off as boys will be boys,
yeah,
that's not appropriate, and it's not funny, and we won't tolerate it. So if somebody does not have their clothes on, it's because they're changing clothes, they're by themselves, and that's it.
yeah,
So, if you are, showering, you've changed, you're going on to the next thing. We are never making light of something that is just like, no, that is not okay. We're not going to write it off as something is like,
yeah,
oh, that's normal. Boys will be boys. I raised 4 boys. I know what boys will be boys looks like, and that's not it. So
yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah,
we're going to hold that standard very high and very differently than what has been publicized. As the Sean Ryan show has made a big deal out of, this I would never send my kids to camp, and I would just challenge him and others that are thinking about camps in a broad brush sense. Every camp doesn't do things that way,
mm,
and we just want to make sure that, that we're very, very purposeful in the way that we address sexual abuse. And I have said at the end of my talk on this, I have said, if that's in your soul, if that is something that you just know is a part of your makeup, you need to have a family emergency and leave right now, no questions asked. And that just we will not tolerate that in any way.
yeah. Um, well, Bill, what's next for Camp Highland? What is your
Man,
vision for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? What are y'all working towards? What dreams has God given you for what's next?
Gosh, so much of what we want to be next does not have to do with bigger so much as it has to do with deeper. We really believe that the depth of impact on the group of campers that we serve is where the kind of the tip of the spear. Biblical literacy and training, the kids that we serve in the summertime, and especially our summer staff, this is where we are sending them out to universities and to real life, and they are absolutely stirring it up for kingdom good, and it is fun, and I want us to keep doing that. So it gets me pretty fired up that we just got accredited for our internships to at the University of Georgia. We just got
Oh,
accredited
cool.
so that our internships can be for college credit. So that's a big deal. Our vision is to, I think we've always, this is completely on me, but I think we've always, because of our fundraising, our focus has been on programming and on kids, really. I think we're behind a little bit on facilities. So we have a wonderful gym that is multi-purpose. So we have a kitchen that we serve like 33,000 meals out of a kitchen that's probably about the same size as your kitchen. So we're trying to kick off we're trying to kick off a capital campaign to build our dining facility that has some meeting space and office space in it that will just legitimize some of the things that we're already doing that is still a little bit of bootstrap. Our staff housing is something that we really need to get right. Our staff is so amazing, and they just, gosh, I could talk about them for forever and ever. The Camp Highland culture is it's just amazing. And these young people, and now they're in their 20s and 30s, a couple of married couples, a lot of singles, and a bunch of interns. I mean, they are just the best of the best. They're our culture keepers. And you gather a group of people together like that have fallen in love with Christ and want to give it away. Well, then that's what starts happening, and it's very, very exciting. But the big vision, for us is to look at the gem that God has entrusted us with in all of these different areas of ministry and wear them out for kingdom good. What does it look like for there to be a really amazing piece of property fully developed for um, father son, father daughter, for each of our camps, for elementary, middle, and high school camps, to be broken out, and for us to not scale in a way where we have 1,200 kids on campus at one time, but we could scale some and have an isolated focus on each of those age groups and do a little bit better, bringing them together for worship, bringing them together for meals. The influence that each of those age groups has on each other is phenomenal. So when you think about sending your elementary school kid to camp, and they don't interact with them, unless they are providing leadership for an element, and it's very, very, scripted and very programmed, but they're looking up to them. They're saying, "Oh man, that's what it looks like to walk with the Lord when you're older." And so that's part of our vision, is to raise the resources, raise the money. We're trying to raise right now. We're trying to raise about $8 million to build our dining hall and the meeting space that surrounds it. Um, all of the site work and everything to be able to do that really, really, really well. The big campus number is probably closer to 25 million, to be able to have our space for couples, for family camp, for father son, father daughter. We also have a dream of just being able to open the gate and say to ministry leaders, come and let's spend time together and let's dream about what it looks like to be counterculture and to be a light on a hill in the different areas where you are. And this is the unconference. It's not, we're not going to benefit from it. We don't want anything from them. We want to give something to them. There's just some beautiful things that I feel like are on the horizon for us. And Brian, I it's funny. We have we're really recrafting the way our board functions to be able to talk about succession. And I have a couple of board members that have been saying for a few years, if Bill gets hit by a bus, what are we going to do? And, I'm like, are you guys like, is that the way I'm going to go? Y'all dream of something better than that. I should, I don't want to get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
But, our board is talking about, what does it look like for Highland Ministries to be generational, not just, at the end of my tenure here, we ride off into the sunset. And I believe that Highland Ministries would live, but I don't think left unto itself, I don't think it lives with the heartbeat that it currently has. And we want to make sure that that remains true. And
Yeah.
so we're working on succession. The 10-year plan has a whole lot more to do with that component than it does to do with anything else. So it's
Bill,
exciting time, Brian.
yeah. Have you come across Peter Greer's book on succession? His little green book.
No. Help me
It's
out here. What do I need?
It's just called Succession. It's by Peter Greer, and he had a co-author, but I can't remember who the co-author is. But it's short and it's packed full. I think he interviewed, dozens of leaders who have walked through a succession process, and it's just kind of packed with kind of wisdom on that particular issue.
I love that.
I love Peter Greer. I think in the kind of ministry space, he's one of the best thought leaders I've I've read almost all of his books. He writes a book a year. Most of them are related to kind of ministry leadership. He wrote Mission Drift is his most famous one probably, but then he also wrote Rooting for Rivals, and then a bunch of other ones that are about like the spirituality of leading. So like a book called The Gift of Disillusionment, which is really good. And his most recent one is called How Leaders Lose Their Way. Anyways, this is just a little aside for Greer.
I love that.
Bill, this has been just so fun. I mean, growing up in Metro Atlanta, I feel like Camp Highland is this kind of presence. And it's just amazing to think about all of the stories that that have been impacted, and I think it was Tozer who said what a person thinks about when they think about God is the most important thing about them. And to think that there are moments that we can have with God that can actually shape the trajectory of our lives. I absolutely believe that's true. And
I do too.
The idea that, you have kind of, with the help of a team and the Lord, have built this thing is really just wonderful and inspiring to me. So I encourage anyone who's listening to this who wants to get involved with Camp Highlands, check out the website. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. And if you want to give and support the vision in the future, I'm sure if you want to make a significant gift, I'm sure Bill will be happy to connect with you. So shoot an email.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love that.
And Bill, as we're wrapping up, I'm wondering, what are you learning in this season of life about what it means to love generously like Jesus?
Gosh, Brian, I think about, I'm learning that vulnerability is probably not necessarily a bad thing. And brokenness is not to be hidden. We need to pull it out in the middle of the room and paint it red. And, our story is really through brokenness, not, around it or to fix it. And that's my personal story. I think that's our story as a ministry. And, I think what I'm learning right now is that I think that I believed that when I'm weak, I'm made strong. I believe that it's in there. I think experientially, I'm getting more acquainted and more comfortable with that idea that this has nothing to do with my strength or my ability. It has everything to do with His. And, the idea that I need to be less and He needs to be more is never been more present than it is in our life, my life today, and our life as a ministry today.
The invitation to grow this week is to find a moment to be alone with God. Turn off your phone, put it in the other room, maybe walk outside in nature with a physical Bible, and take 15 minutes to read, pray, and be in God's presence. Thank you so much to Bill Chapman for joining me on the show. If you have feedback on this episode, you can reach me at brian@simplecharity.org. Next time on the show, a conversation with a missionary in Asia. I hope you join me as we continue to learn to love generously like Jesus. Have a great week. See you next time.